This is the Mooer F15i intelligent amplifier. This is a 15-watt amp that allows you to use it with the built-in speakers or out into a computer for recording, thanks to the USB-C port on the back. Let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. You're listening to the tones of the Mooer F15i intelligent amplifier. Now, if you're familiar with multi-effects processor pedals, we get all of that same power and functionality built into a practice amp with a whole bunch of other stuff. So we'll cover that now. All right, let's cover the features here. So we get 55 amplifiers to choose from, 69 effects as well, which is crazy. So you've got lots of different overdrive, distortions, delays, reverbs, all that kind of stuff. We also get a dedicated drum machine that also works in conjunction with the looper. You don't have to use the drum machine if you don't want, but it's there if you so choose to use it. If you just want to practice to a metronome, this also has that built in. To connect to the amplifier, it's all done via Bluetooth, but you can also at the same time pair it with this, which is a 4-button Bluetooth foot switch. This allows you to switch between different presets that you save in each bank. We get a great quality 1.3-inch touchscreen display here as well, which is killer. I don't think I've seen too many practice amps with this particular functionality. There's a couple of different ways you can record. Obviously, you can mic this up if that's your preferred way of doing it. You can use the USB-C port on the back to record directly to the computer, like in that jam track, and I'll show you some isolated tones a little bit later. And there's also a left and right line out on the back. So you can run this into an additional or existing audio interface that you might have, or you can run it out into a much larger speaker for much larger tones. It's pretty wild. We get two 2-inch speakers in here that are rated at 15 watts. Now, my first impression of the speakers were I thought that they were going to be much larger, because however they've designed this acoustically, it not only handles bass frequencies really well, but also most of the electric guitar tones in here up to a pretty loud volume, which is great. So yeah, the speaker quality in here right up there with far more expensive practice amps. This F15i amp allows you to stream music from your phone to the speaker that's built into this and then jam along, and you can set the mix accordingly, which I really like. So that's great. You can just turn your phone up and down if it's too loud, not loud enough. Then also set the master volume accordingly thanks to the control here on the front. The front panel on this is nice and simple. We've got our power button on the far left, and going from left to right over here, we've got our tools button, which allows you to configure different settings on the amplifier. Our tap button, which is our tap tempo button, and this can control different tempo features within the amp. We have a dedicated tuner button, and this can also be found on the app, but it's great having it directly on the front here. There's also a preset button. So say, for example, we might be on our tuner. We want to get back to our presets. You can either hit the tuner button again, or of course, just hit the preset button and then cycle through them this way. Now, the value control allows you to cycle through options that are currently selected. And if you just want to use the preset button, it's going to basically go through the presets in that bank. So 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D. If I keep pushing it, it's just going to cycle through those. So you don't need the foot switch to utilize this to its full capacity, but it definitely makes a difference having it. Our master volume over here affects the overall output volume, whether we're using this as a practice amp or connected to the computer. On the far right, we have our headphone socket, and we've got our guitar input jack. For the price, this amp is excellent, and if you want to check it out, I'll link it below. Before we get into this video, a huge thank you to Mooer for sending this out and sponsoring this video. As always, all of my videos are pros and cons reviews, and I'll give you some of my thoughts about it at the end. But overall, I like this so much that I'm putting it in the best of 2025. So you'll see this in my end of year wrap up. Let's go through some of these presets. So I've got the amp mic'd up with an AEA N22 ribbon microphone. So just one microphone here, a little bit back, so you get a good sense of how the amp sounds in the room. We have the volume set to about 60%, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 63%, that'll do. And I'm going to be switching the patches here using the foot switch. As you can see on the amplifier, it's switching. It's also switching on the phone app as well. So I'm going to sync all of this in post. Anyway, I just wanted to show you some of the great sounds you can get out of this. This first clean sound is beautiful. So this is my Strat neck pickup. This is 4 usable tones on that particular bank. The second bank of presets has a range of different sounds, starting with this dry, clean rhythm sound. It's called Funk Rhythm. Here we go. So yeah, dead dry, nice and clean. And over to the second one here, which has a lot more reverb. So I'll play something different. If you're a fan of Mesa Boogie, take a listen to this. We've got basically 4 different types of boogie tones, starting clean, there's a light crunch, and then it goes over to the more aggressive tones as we go through. So let's give this a shot. This is bridge pickup. That last one's great. What a lead tone. This next bank might be my favorite one out of all of them, and this has a great combination of sounds from blues all the way through to sort of metal tones. Here we go. Sounds great. Over to metal. Yeah, so there's lots in here just by using the presets. Over to bank 7, which starts with a sweet chorus, and in the room it really feels great to play, man. There's a lot of sort of space around the amp, if that makes sense. Here we go. Beautiful delay on there as well. Yeah, I don't love that one. Over to punk rhythm guitar, which I'm not a punk player, but here we go. I'm actually quite shocked at the sustain on this. Have a listen to this. Awesome. And over to pop lead. I mean, that's really usable as well. That's a great lead tone for basically any style of music. Let us know what you think of some of these presets. Now, while I've showcased a bunch of guitar tones with this so far, it actually works beautifully with bass guitar, and the low end response feels great. There's no distortion or anything like that in the tone, or, you know, the speakers aren't rattling or doing anything weird. It just sounds great. So have a listen to this. This is bank 8 right now, and I'm going to go through each of the 4 presets just using the P-bass pickup here. So let's give this a shot. Tones all the way up, jazz pickups all the way off. That sounds awesome. So that one's got more reverb. This one's got a bit of verb as well. The B, man, this one sounds great. Again, nothing's rattling. I'm really impressed by how this handles the low end. Let me give you a quick rundown of how to create your own preset here. So I've picked a new patch, which is 10A, and basically everything above this has all of the presets in the amplifier already. Now, what you can do if you really like one is start with one. So if you like that clean tone I had initially, which I really liked, we could just base our tone on that. But the cool thing with it is you can absolutely just create your own. So what we're going to do, we'll create a really nice clean tone and a really nice crunch tone. Maybe do a lead one as well if there's time. So let's give it a shot. So we're on 10A right now. And what I'm going to do is just start by adding some things to this. So I'm going to add a spring reverb to a deluxe reverb amplifier, which is the, you know, stock one. So let's have a listen to this. All right, I like the sound of the twin better. It's just a little bit brighter, but I also want just a little bit more low end. So I'm going to bring that up, and the master is at 60. So let's have another listen. All right, great. Now, if you want to customize the reverb and change it to plate, for example, you can do that. Let's have a listen. Yeah, I definitely don't like that as much as the spring reverb. So that's cool. That's my clean tone. Now, if you want to go ahead and add compressors to this, or more EQ, you can do so. You can add some delay, but I'm just going to keep it simple for now. So what I'm going to do is save this one, and I'm going to call this, as I always do for reference, ITB clean. All right, done. So that's the first one done. So what I can do if I want, I can actually save this one here to the one under it, which is currently empty. So that's what I'm going to do. So the B patch will now be the same as the first one. And this really speeds up the way you can kind of work with everything. Rather than just change the amplifier type, which is totally fine to do, what I'm going to do is add some drive pedals before the amplifier. Now everything's in its own signal chain order here as well. It might not look like it, but it is. So what you can do, you can add, say, your favorite overdrive or any of the overdrives. So let's go to the 808, just because everyone knows what a tube screamer sounds like. And I'm going to drag this ahead of the amplifier for the best results. If you have it after, it gets really fizzy. So yeah, this way is how it's supposed to work. How can you go wrong with a tube screamer? It's a classic for a reason, man. Let's crank it up a little more. Sounds cool, but I want to go through a few of these other effects here. Let's try the gold clon. The infamous gold clon. So you get the point, right? You can find one that you really like. I kind of like the gold clon and the 808 for what I really play mostly, which is blues and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to leave this set to the 808. So for me, that sounds great. I could use that for rhythm guitar or basic sort of blues lead stuff. So I'm going to save this one. I'm going to hit done. No, we're not. We're going to go over to... Oh, yeah, we are. We're on the second one. So, yeah, I haven't renamed this. I'm going to call this one Blues. All right. Hit done. And now what we're going to do also is copy this one to the one under it. So this will be on the C patch now. And this is where we can start adding delays and all that kind of stuff and more drive and the rest of it. So let's do this. But what I'm going to do also is add a gold clon ahead of the tube screamer, because I love this combination. It really works well. I'll turn the gain down a bit. Let's have a listen to this. I mean, that's going to be great for a basic lead tone, and I can customize all of this, but right now I'm just going to leave it as is, and we're also going to add a little bit of delay, because delay is great. Let's go through a few of these and see how they sound, or hear how they sound. Minus my bad note there, it actually sounded pretty great. Tape is it. Tape is it. It sounds great. So let's bring this down. I usually like about 3 and a bit repeats. So let's have a listen. There's too many. So I'm just going to bring the feedback down. A little bit more down. All right, I like this, but I'm just going to turn the reverb back here because it's too much of that. So let's give this a shot. I'm laughing because I can get my own sound by knowing what I like through this, which is great. I mean, that's kind of like my live lead tone. I love delay. I love having a clon boost and a Maxon Overdrive Pro or Tube Scream. It's such a great combination. I'm also just quickly going to put the delay ahead of the amp just to see what the difference is. Yeah, so you can put the time-based effects basically anywhere there. I really like that. So I'm going to save this one and I'm going to call this, oh, I tapped on the wrong thing. I'm going to call this lead. So now that's 3 out of the 4 done. So that's 3 out of the 4 patches on this bank completed, and I would finesse this more off camera if I just want to get everything sounding exactly how I want it to sound. But the great news is it's nice and simple, and once you've got a starting platform ready with your favorite amp, whether that's a Marshall or a Vox or a Fender amp, you can then save it, copy it, and move it across, and then switch with this foot switch. So this is my clean tone. Nice and clean. Blues tone. Then I've got my sort of like rock lead tone for this bridge pickup. I think what really separates this from a lot of other digital modeling amplifiers like this is you can stack multiple overdrives or distortion pedals in the chain, which is great. You're not just limited to one, so that's fantastic. And yeah, let us know what you think. What you're about to see next is the looping functionality of the amplifier before I got the final instruction manual, which does cover how to use the foot switch with the looper. So if you're wondering, can you do this? You absolutely can. I've shot the rest of this video. I had to come back and drop this in because I was updated with the final instructions. So thanks to Mooer for that. But yeah, you can absolutely use the looping functionality without having your phone and all that kind of stuff connected. But I'll just show you that because that's what I filmed. Here we go. Let's take a look at the 60-second looper built into this, and this works a little bit differently. So you can see down the bottom here that it's set up for drum sync, which means we can sync it up with the drum machine or we can just loop without it, but I'm going to loop with it. If we go over to the drum machine section, I've got it set up for 95 beats per minute. You can change the tempo by dragging that slider around or using the left and right arrow keys on screen, or you can tap tempo as well. There's plenty of different options from pop to blues to jazz to metal, rock, all that kind of stuff. There's funk and a whole lot of metronomes down the bottom. So what I'm going to do is go back to pop 1 because it actually sounds pretty great. Now I've lined up some sort of weird sounding or different sounding effects for this particular section, including like a kind of like a Hammond organ kind of effect thing, which I really like. So we're going to give this a shot. So I'm going to hit record. It will count me in and then it will start recording. And then when I want the loop to end, I'm going to hit the play button. Now I'm in playback mode. Let's record a different layer. Now you can also adjust the level of the playback on the looper as well as how loud you want the drum machine, and I'll show you how to do that. So basically from the volume on the looper here, we can change the playback volume, we can make it louder if we need to. Same with the drum machine, there's a volume control, dedicated volume control for that as well. So that's really cool, it allows you to get the right mix. Now usually what happens is when you start looping a lot of stuff, it incrementally will get louder, but on this, it actually stays pretty consistent, which is great. So you can just pick a different patch and solo over it and then use, all the presets that you make. But I wanted to showcase some different sounds in this one, but let's jam out. Maybe my favorite feature about this amplifier, other than the fact it's a great practice amp, is that I can hook it up to the computer via USB-C and get really professional sounding recordings. So if you're someone who likes to do any sort of songwriting, you might want to use this for an album. You can dial in basically any type of tone. Now I used this in the intro track and those tones sounded great to my ear. But what I'm going to do now is isolate the bass, the rhythm guitar parts, and some of those lead parts so you can get a good sense of how they sound on their own without doing anything to them in post-production. Let's have a listen. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm going to give you my final thoughts on the Mooer F15i intelligent amplifier. I'm putting this in the best of 2025 for a few reasons. First up, it feels and sounds great whether I'm playing electric guitar or bass with it plonked on the stool over here. The reverbs and effects all sound really beautiful and it has a sense of space in here as well. I love the fact that the speakers don't distort on here whether I'm playing bass or electric guitar as well. That's a really cool thing. Now, if you do crank the volume up all the way on a few of the patches, you might experience some low-end distortion, but with it at 65 or 70, for the majority of this video, I didn't have any problems with it, and I love how this feels to play as well. It's quite inspiring, I did a little loop jam, and I was just like having a good time, and that's kind of what it's all about. Now, if you're someone who also wants to record, being able to just plug this into a computer and use this as an audio interface is amazing. It's funny how great tech like this has come at an inexpensive price. I've got a Kemper profiling amp back here and I could absolutely use this to record an album. The bass tones sounded great. The electric guitar tones sounded great. Now, not all of the presets will sound great to your ear as soon as you plug in and turn this thing on, but you'll find some that you love, and that's a great starting point for like customizing your sound, or you can fully customize your sound as well, which is killer. So yeah, pairing this with the foot switch is great. You can switch between the ones that you like, and that's it. You won't have to sort of fiddle around with it again. I think without question, this holds its own with some more expensive and very popular home practice amplifiers, and we might do a shootout with a few of those coming up on the channel. But yeah, I'm really impressed. My only critiques with this would be that, one, the app takes a little bit of getting used to. If you just think you can throw on an overdrive pedal and it's going to sound great, it doesn't. You kind of got to move it to before the amplifier. So there's a signal chain associated with the app that makes things sound better or worse. So just be, patient and experiment around, because if you have the overdrive or distortion at the end of the signal chain, it's going to sound terrible. You've got to just drag it over to the far left like I showed you earlier. So that's cool. The rechargeable battery is great in here, but it did take quite a long time to charge. Now, I've got USB power delivery devices here with fast charging, all that kind of stuff. This out of the box was at 62%, and to get it to 100%, man, it took ages. It took a couple of hours. So yeah, the charging's a little bit slow on here, but the great news is if you've got it plugged in via USB or whatever, you can just jam and have fun. And if you just want to plonk it down in the living room or whatever and play in there, then you're going to have battery for hours. Now, yeah, I'm still at 92%, and given that I did have this connected to USB-C for a small portion of this video, it was charging back up a little bit. But yeah, the battery life on here appears to be really great. This has plenty of different amps, effects, and all that kind of thing that we've seen on loads of different amplifiers like this, and effects pedals and processor pedals. And yeah, it's just great having an all-in-one solution like this. I think it absolutely looks great as well. I'm going to put this in the best of 2025. I'm very impressed with what I was able to get out of this. And the touchscreen display here is really cool as well. It's just a great point of difference from, you know, lots of different options out there. It's a really classy looking device here. I should also point out, if you want to get even bigger and better tones than the built-in speaker, we get that left and right output on the back. So you can use these for going into an audio interface, listening back through studio monitors. You might have one of those powered speakers that you want to run directly out of this, and then you can do that as well. So yeah, it's great. Let us know what you think. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.